Hey YouTube, Panfish Guy, and welcome back to PFG Fishing. Today we're going to discuss drift control while spider rigging for crappie and why it's important. First, a message from the YouTube channel. Okay folks, a serious question. Do you really need drift control gear for spider rigging? Watch this video clip and then we'll discuss. So hopefully that impressed upon you the need for drift control gear while you're spider rigging. That was last year at Reelfoot Lake in May, and I had 2 drift socks out, and it was all I could do to keep the boat at a relatively steady pace to continue spider rigging. Spider rigging is based on slowly moving a vertical presentation of bait through the water column. Your boat is drifting along and being influenced by the wind pushing you around. And obviously you can use your trolling motor to influence your direction and speed as well. Depending on how big or small your boat is, the more or less the wind will affect you. Drift control gear allows you to keep your boat at a steady speed and keep your bait in the strike zone. There are varying methods to drift control, with drift socks being the most common. I have seen folks dragging 5-gallon buckets behind their boat for drift control, and there's also drift paddles on the high end that you can equip your boat with. That's for the guys with the big buck. Not only does drift control gear help you keep your boat going at a consistent speed and in a straight line, it will also help you keep your lines unsnagged in lakes with heavy cover. My first trip spider rigging was with a guide at Reelfoot Lake named Mark Pierce. He's a really good guy. And if you ever need a guide for fishing, you should look him up. Mark used 2 drift socks in combination with a heavy log chain and electric anchor system to help control the boat. With that combination of drift socks and the log chain, he was able to maintain the boat and keep us on fish even in a 20+ mile an hour wind. It was really blowing that day, but we caught like 45 fish that day. So I had seen some videos of it, and I went to Reelfoot Fish with Mark, and I came away from that thinking to myself, hey, you know, I'm ready to take this on. So I spent the next season buying gear and getting myself prepped for my next trip to Reelfoot the following spring. So I show up at Reelfoot the next spring, and I'm all gung-ho. I'm ready to go. I'm loaded for bear. I get out on the lake. I put the anchor down, I deploy all my rods, I set up my rack, I deploy all my rods and get everything set up, and I'm ready to go. I pull up the anchor and start drifting across the lake. I'm ready to slay some crappie, man. This is going to be good. Except I neglected one thing. I didn't deploy my drift sock. As the wind pushed me farther from the south bank at Reelfoot, the boat picked up speed, and pretty soon I have 6 of my 8 rods snagged on a log. I ended up breaking off 6 of my rigs, and the other two rods were a tangled mess. Needless to say, there was a little bit of noise coming from my boat, and there was a fellow next to me about 20 yards over. He's spider rigging too in a big fiberglass boat, and he hollers out, he says, "Spider rigging's fun, ain't it?" And he was getting a kick out of watching a newbie try to spider rig without drift control. I wanted to share that story just to show you that drift control is necessary if you're spider rigging. Don't neglect it. Not only did I ignore one of the main principles of spider rigging, I also tried to do it on a lake that's, for the uninitiated, very hard to spider rig in the first place, with all the snags, the stumps, etc. After a frustrating hour and a half trying to spider rig, I think I caught 2 little dinks. I decided, you know what, I'm putting the gear away. I'm gonna bluegill fish the rest of my trip this year. When I got home, I put that spider rigging gear away and never to be seen for like another year and a half. My attitude at the time was that spider rigging sucks, but really it was my reluctance to use the drift gear that was my downfall on that trip, and actually several more trips to come. I could go on and on about that, but let's fast forward several hard lessons and several years later. I personally use two 30-inch drift socks. I have one I bought down at Reelfoot Lake. It's a 30-inch from Drift Control, and another one from Bass Pro. It's 30 inches as well. The Drift Control model runs about 50 bucks nowadays, and the Bass Pro model I saw for 25 bucks. And if you got a smaller boat like mine, those should work pretty well for you until the wind really gets to blowing hard. Then then you might need something bigger. I also recommend using a buoy to keep your drift socks afloat. The Bass Pro one actually has one built into it. It's a float that's sewed into the material. But you want to keep those socks on top of the water, especially when you're fishing shallow lakes like Reelfoot, because they can get caught on stumps and stuff if you let them sink. So I actually rigged mine with the dollar store pool noodles that you buy for $1, right? And those things are handy for a lot of different life hacks. But I put those on the straps with some zip ties, and it keeps those things on top of the water. In a light breeze, I can get away with using one drift sock, but I almost always use one unless the water is just like glass, just for control purposes again. And some lakes I fish don't have as much cover, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you have any breeze whatsoever, you should probably be at least using one drift sock just to kind of keep yourself steady. Last year's trip to Reelfoot and that windy clip that I showed you, by the time we got done, I got blown off the lake. We had to quit. We couldn't stay on. I'm considering buying maybe another larger one to add to the two that I have, but I haven't made up my mind yet. Folks, I can't stress how important this is. Even a light breeze can make you zoom right by fish that would ordinarily bite your bait. Or worse yet, get you caught in a snag and make you rethink your choice of spider rigging. Been there, done that. Please, if you're considering spider rigging, please consider buying some drift gear. You will thank me later. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode. Next up is teamwork. I'm going to try to get back on a regular Sunday schedule. Things have been a little crazy around here, and the whole damn world's gone crazy, so hopefully things get back to a little more normal here in the near future. But I am going to try for a weekly video on Sunday mornings. Also, look out for I've got two giveaway videos coming up, both on the YouTube channel and my Facebook page, Panfish Guy. And of course, don't forget to check out our friends at my724outdoors.com. Check out my Facebook and Instagram pages, and coming soon, panfishguy.com. Links are in the description. Oh, and before I forget, please consider subscribing to the channel. Panfish Guy out.